Hello. Welcome, everyone, on Zoom in person. We're going to get started for time reasons because we all love chatting, but we're here for a purpose. So I'm Andy Faber. I'm the director of the New Faculty Institute. Today, we are talking about navigating the faculty evaluation process. So annual review, reappointment, tenure, promotion, all of those things in a variety of different faculty types of positions. So we have 4 wonderful panelists here who have lots of knowledge about these processes and will give us some guidance. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then talk a little bit about their general advice, and then we'll have lots of time for questions and answers. So it's intended to be informal for people in the room. If you need to get more breakfast, please don't hesitate to get up and get more breakfast. For those of you on Zoom, you can also get up and get more breakfast, but we're not providing it for you. Sorry, it's what happens when you come on Zoom. But you can feel free, Zoomers, to drop anything in the chat. If you have questions, I will be monitoring the chat and can read them out for our panelists. And so without further ado, I will bring our panelists on to introduce themselves. So.
Morning all. Is it on?
It should be green if it's on.
Oh, it should be green. Oh, good morning again. Oh, wow. Yeah, if you're Zooming, you should have been here. There's great breakfast over here, all kinds of goodies. So I'm Brad Kramer. I'm the department head for Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering.
Good morning. Thank you, Andy and Candace and everyone. Nice opportunity. I am Beth Davis, the Associate Dean of Clinical Programs over in Clinical Sciences within the College of Veterinary Medicine, and in that role serve as Department Head of Clinical Sciences.
Good morning. My name is Tara Coleman, and I'm a professor in the libraries.
I feel like everyone else's introductions were very humble. Brad and Beth are also mentors for the new department head orientation. So they are seasoned department heads and are some of the role models we have on campus for this work. And Tara Coleman is also has served as ombudsperson for many years on campus and is an incredible resource as well. My name is Tanya Gonzalez. I'm a professor in the Department of English, and I am currently serving as Associate Provost for Academic Affairs. And I've been in this position for several years, and I've had the opportunity to also head up some faculty affairs work for the university, as well as interim director for the Teaching and Learning Center. And we are just delighted to be here to answer your questions. Do you want us to do a preview?
What's that?
Did you want us to share advice and?
Yeah, let's start with,
Okay.
so like general, all of you advice. What advice would you give new faculty in terms of how to think about, structuring their work in a way that's going to facilitate positive evaluations and ultimate promotion if that's available to faculty?
Yeah, so I am going to start with the fundamentals. And so if we could share that website. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew or knows where the departmental documents for your unit are found, because when you're doing annual reviews, promotion and tenure reviews, or dealing with any other evaluative pieces for your personnel situation, for your employment, we have university guidelines in the university handbook, and that is found in section C of the university handbook, which is where all of the definitions of what are the faculty positions, how are they defined, what are those sort of general expectations for the different varieties of faculty that we have, whether it's tenure track or non-tenure track, clinical or research or sort of generalized assistant, associate, and full positions. All of that is delineated, as well as the evaluations for processes and tenure processes writ large for the university. So if you ever have any of those big university questions, the university handbook is where you go. In addition to that, if you have any questions about, hey, what happens if I disagree with my evaluation? Or what happens if I need help or assistance? In section C, you'll have links to the appendices and all the procedural manual pieces that will assist in kind of guiding you through what are the procedures and policies that are associated with that, as well as any kind of, just the steps. So if there's a grievance or if something that you have questions about for sabbatical questions or down the line, or anything. So just, it's always good to sort of look through the index of the university handbook, just to see what's out there topic wise that you might be interested in. The other place that is extremely important and foundational for you as faculty to be aware of, and this is something that your department heads may have already shared with you, but I remember when I started, my department had shared so much with me that I was like, it almost felt like a right? Like very
I'm telling
peanuts.
Karen.
Yeah, tell Karen. It's very peanuts moment, right? Because you're like, this is too much information. I don't know what's happening. So hopefully you did receive a written or a printout or a link to your department documents when you were onboarded this semester. But if you didn't, it's okay, because I'm going to show you where they live. And so you can access those forever. And so here we have, if you look at the sort of pathway here, the K-State home, if you click on Office of the Provost, or it actually just says Provost under Academics, it'll say Provost, and then you go to Policies, Guidelines, and Resources. And then it should drop down here to Evaluation, Promotion, Tenure. And so this is the page, and we'll share it in the link to it in the chat here, but also I'm sure we can share that link with the thank you note or the evaluation or whatever that you're going to do after this. But this is the spot where you would find your department evaluation, promotion, tenure documents. So sometimes people think, oh, this is just for tenure track faculty. It's not. It has all of your annual review, all of your departmental review, all of that information, including tenure track in terms of promotion and tenure, but it's also promotion for non-tenure track faculty. It's also annual review. So you just click on that department evaluation, promotion, tenure, and you scroll through all that language, especially if you're looking at on your phone or your laptop. It's like, what the heck? You scroll to the bottom and then you'll see that this is organized by college or unit. You click on one of the colleges, so you can go to, let's just do arts and sciences for my department. And then, or let's not do my department. Let's do, let's do no, we could go to arts and sciences. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, cool. But let's just do Department of Psychological Sciences. Thank you. I love it. I love it. It's like a concert. Like this. All right. So, College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Psychological Sciences. And so again, it looks like an empty page, but there's a little tiny PDF. And so you click on the PDF. Yeah, go for it. I'm doing that because it's foundational, right? And then you'll have, and just keep scrolling down, scroll. And so then you'll have your, stop. You'll have your, stop. Have your introduction, which basically the introduction of these documents will probably lay out some basic principles that your faculty have agreed upon, the department has agreed upon, and some general guidelines and principles. And then you'll see the criteria for annual merit evaluation. And that one comes first, because guess what? Annual merit evaluation is annual, and I say this out loud, not because I don't think you can read, it's because it's overwhelming. These processes are overwhelming, and nobody ever walks you through how to find this stuff. And it's just something that I remember very strongly. And even though I've been at K-State since 2005, I still remember that feeling of not knowing so much. There's so much that you just don't know. And so we just want to share this. And so you can kind of scroll through and it'll have your, like I said, your annual evaluation guidelines, how people are perceiving teaching and how they're evaluating teaching, what those expectations are. And this is also your outline for how you create your narratives in terms of how you're going to present your narrative each year. The reason why we do this department by department is because every discipline has different expectations, different types of places where you might publish, different ways of pedagogically addressing the material. You might have a space, you might be in a space that's more engagement driven and students need to have more experiential learning. You might be in a space that's not like that, that you have more traditional kinds of expectations. But it's also the place where you might get a list of what kinds of things people understand as innovative, how they treat a new prep versus an old prep or things like that. Some department documents are 5 pages single spaced. Some department documents are 30 pages single spaced. It really depends. We are working on a little bit more of a template, but again, we don't want to be too prescriptive because it's important for you as faculty to be, you are the ones that create this language for each department. You vote on it as a team. And so if you find something in the documents that you think is unfair or strange or odd, it's okay to outreach to your department head and say, is this something that has to be this way? Is this something we might want to talk about as a department? And that's okay to do. We're going to be in the process in the next 2 years of talking about faculty workload, for instance, and what kind of language do we put in our department documents in terms of faculty workload. So these are live documents that get evaluated and updated at least every 5 years, but they can be updated and evaluated more often. You guys can tackle it in different sections if you'd like. Brad's documents are awesome. I just looked at those. They were very,
Good.
we just wanted to share with you where these are. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let everybody ask.
You want me? Go ahead. We'll just go down the line.
I think it's important to recognize that your work is different than someone else's work. Unless you're a team with identical job descriptions and goals, it's probably to your detriment to compare yourself to someone else. Compare yourself to the documents that your department created for promotion and tenure. And if you're unsure and there seems to be someone who is doing a really great job, it's always acceptable. And I would even encourage you to talk to them and ask them what they're doing. If you're comfortable asking if they would be willing to share something. So like in the room is one of my new colleagues. Our work is very different, but I would happily share with her, this is how I write an evaluation. It may not be what you do because our work is very different and we report to different supervisors, but if it would help you, you're welcome to see it. Same thing with whatever your promotion documents look like. In the libraries, we are librarians and we do detailed things. So what we ask people to do is probably, from my experience, very different from what other people are asked to do. And that's okay. But if someone is willing to share whatever you call it, your portfolio or packet, if that helps you to get an idea of how to put something together, do it. Recognizing that if your work is different, yours might look a little different. I just rolled off of 6 years of being an ombuds, and I think it's important for me to share that if you have questions and you don't feel comfortable asking someone in your department, you can always ask an ombuds. They're a great person, confidential. They can talk to you, help you dig through information. Oftentimes what I did is like comb through the handbook, talk to Tanya and Charlotta Self in HR. And one thing that I think is important to remember is that sometimes things are a policy and sometimes things are a departmental cultural norm that's not written down. So it's helpful to know the difference. So if part of it is you're required to bring muffins to the tenure committee, and if you don't, you're penalized, I would say, does your tenure and promotion document say that, or is that a cultural thing? And I know that's an exaggeration, but a more likely one is someone being told you're not social enough, you're not a good team player. And like, well, what does that look like? What do your documents say? Who are you being compared to? So it's helpful before maybe internalizing something and thinking you're not doing a good job to ask, what does it look like in our tenure promotion documents? And what do you mean if the example is being social or bringing donuts or muffins for everyone on the committee?
A lot of great information. I would say from a unit that is a little bit different in some respects over at the College of Veterinary Medicine within the Department of Clinical Sciences, because we have a teaching hospital, we do have faculty that have clinical appointments predominantly, and we have faculty that have more traditional tenure track appointments. And so I think that being familiar with the policies, departmental documents, absolutely really important. As joining a department, being fully aware of your appointment and understanding the allocation of effort, I think is really important, because that helps faculty understand what the expectations are for the different responsibilities that they have in that position. I would also echo working with your department head. Your department head is your biggest champion. You are there because your department head hired you, and we are here to support faculty in their positions. And your win is the departmental win. And so I think that's important too, because sometimes I do think that it is really intimidating to get started, and there's a lot of information truly from a fire hose you are drinking, but we are all in it together, and we're so glad that everybody is here at K-State. I think the other things that we do, so understanding the allocation of effort, knowing what the expectations are, working with colleagues informally, sharing materials, sharing information. One thing that we also do is we do have mentoring committees, and those mentoring committees I think can be very helpful, especially because we do have the clinical track and tenure track appointments, and they do differ in some ways. They actually have quite a bit of similarity as well, and it is all outlined in our departmental document. So knowing those policies, who to go to, and recognize your department head is your friend and your colleague.
Okay, it's terrible to go last. You guys all had such good advice. Really, I think it was wonderful. You started off with going with the documents, because that's absolutely critical, and everything that you said about your contributions, just rock solid. I was going to kind of go in the same vein that Beth did. Just all of you as faculty exceeded survival of the academic system, right? You thrived. And we have this process where a lot of times the student's trying to guess what's going to be on the exam. So I'm going to figure it out, and then I'm going to rock it. And you do, and you did your whole career, right? And we sometimes take that same approach to our evaluations. I've got the documents. I'm going to look at them. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to just, rock my annual evaluation. I think that's the name of this session. But I really like what Beth said, because whether it was your current department head that hired you or a previous one, it doesn't matter. The university has invested a lot to get you here, and they wanted you here. And we have no desire to bring someone in and get rid of them. So I really love that Beth's saying, go to your department head. They're going to be a cheerleader. Yes, we do have to provide an evaluation, but it shouldn't be an adversarial relationship. It shouldn't be something where you're guessing at whether or not you're doing the right things. Now, every department head's a little bit different though. So you may have to be the one that initiates the conversation to say, okay, how can I do this better? This is part of my assignment and you rated me as average. What would it look like for me to really accomplish what you want me to do? Hopefully, most of the department heads are really thinking about this and talking with you. And in order to be as good as we can be as a department head, we kind of need to know you and what you want to accomplish. You know, if you really want to, be the top researcher in your field, it's okay to verbalize that to your department head and talk about what you need. We don't have a magic wand that we can, get all the resources that you need to accomplish that objective, where it's a rock star distance education teacher or researcher or whatever. But knowing what you want to accomplish helps us in terms of making appropriate assignments and also helping to find the resources you need to be successful. So I think that's the number one thing to me is think about your mental model of what this is all about. And it's not something like the exam where you're guessing what the teacher is trying to do. The number two thing, and I did this my entire career. Of course, I am before dinosaurs. I love that you called me seasoned and not old, but that's the English professor. But whenever I did something that I thought was important to my job, I just write it down and take that note and put it in the file. If I got an email, this was before email, but if I got anything that documented, Brad went out and talked to these prospective students, I just put it in the file. Because it's amazing at the end of the year how much you forget that you did. So then the process of preparing my narrative was much easier. I would just go back and pull out all the things I did, categorize them. Many of the things you'd throw out as that's too trivial, and you try to tell your own story. What did I do to contribute to the mission of my department according to what your mission is, what your faculty evaluation document is, your strategic plan, whatever you have in your department? It's up to you to tell that story, and you can help yourself tell that story by documenting what you did. Anymore, I do that electronically. I go back and look at my calendar. I look at my email trail and things like that. But I think it's important to be your own best advocate. And I'll go forever, so I'll shut up.
Are there questions?
I'll ask one as we're here as teaching. Yeah. There we go. As teaching assistant professors in a department that does not have a history of them, we did find those documents on our own, but it's very scarce. So the annual evaluation, we've made it through a few times. I feel like made it through because we're figuring it out. But for promotion side, what do you recommend in a department that hasn't ever promoted someone in our area before? How do we help move that process along? Because we also have a new department chair or department head, and he too doesn't know. So where do we get, what's the best way we can help facilitate getting more clear information on promotion?
That's an excellent question. So, so you should have so the department documents are meant to have detailed details about promotions for all levels, for all types of faculty that are in there. So if you find that that what is written in your documents doesn't feel like enough. It's not as detailed as that maybe the tenure track or the research professor kind of sections, then that's something, like I said before, that you would want, you've already discussed this with your chair or your department head. If you're all in agreement that this isn't as robust as or clear or detailed as it could be, that's when the wonderful work of language policy development begins. That is, you're identifying a gap in the information in your documents, and then you set up a subcommittee to evaluate that, to draft up some recommended language that you would like to add to the documents, and then have that conversation as a whole faculty in your department. That's what I recommend. I think that that's crucial. I don't know, in fact, how your department documents were approved without something like that. So there's a little bit in there, but if you find that it's not as robust as you would like or as detailed as you would like, and then what that allows you to do is to say, okay, this is what our subcommittee, and I would recommend having a diverse subcommittee. So with representation from all kinds of different faculty types and levels and areas. So from full to assistant to instructor, if you incorporate those. So just have everybody, somebody represented from there just to do a quick evaluation, see where the gaps are in the documents, and then create a plan to update them and create those. And those are, again, voted on by the entire faculty. And that means that that's when those are voted upon and approved, that's the criteria that everyone is evaluated in. Beth, do you want to add something, or do you want to? Anyone?
Yeah, I would echo what Tanya has said, but I think that if there are omissions or gaps, to clarify those points, and I think it could relate to that there is a lot of variability in the makeup of your faculty. And so that is where really the departmental documents are essentially living, breathing documents, and that they do grow over time. And we do have that 5-year timeline, but it is very true that sometimes we have to make adjustments. And in our department, it's probably been about 15 years, but we made a change from tenure track to also include clinical track. And so they are both included in the departmental document. And those faculty, just as an example, because they might have somewhere between a 70% and maybe even 100% clinical service appointment, they don't have the ability to really have primary research responsibilities and activities. They might have some collaborative opportunities. And so when they put together their materials for promotion, it does look very different. And so I have to say, as a department head, I feel like it's my responsibility to help communicate to everyone that's reviewing those materials internally, externally, and throughout our campus, what that appointment looks like and how much that faculty is really accomplishing, and that they are, again, being familiar with the expectations, and that they are often far exceeding expectations.
I think in the last decade or so and across higher education, your role has become more prominent. And we're in the birth pains of trying to define what that contribution is. And K-State has struggled a bit as they've gone through and in defining the role of the non-traditional research position. So I love, the conversation about the document. That's absolutely critically important, and you can help drive that conversation. In the meantime, our document requires, for instance, for our tenure track faculty, that they prepare all their materials as if they're going up for promotion and tenure every year. And our our committee reviews and gives feedback. So if that's not in your document, you could still go to your department head and say, I'd like to do this so that I can get feedback and know, what it's going to take to get promoted. So they may be resistant if this is not part of your habit, but you could start the conversation that way. And that will help the faculty that will be evaluating you for the promotion to start getting in their head that, oh, this is a different position with different expectations. I don't know how many of you there are in the department, but in 4, that's a pretty good number, but you had a lot more than that for clinical professors, didn't you?
We have 60 faculty, and I'd say we're about evenly split right now on clinical and tenure track faculty.
So that's a different dynamic than when you're, part of the minority. So perhaps, I don't know, it just came to me as Beth was talking that you might be able to start that conversation that way.
A lot of, so I've seen some units create templates for both annual review processes and what's expected in terms of what you're submitting for annual review. And then also following on what Brad said, using the final template that you would submit for mid-tenure or tenure promotion as your reappointment document and so again, really thinking about creating structures that allow for that expectation of what you will see and how you can structure your narrative pertinent to your particular position and the expectations. And even within, this is the other thing, I mean, faculty experience is unique. I want to repeat something that Tara said is, in our university handbook, it actually states that departments should hire faculty and faculty should contribute unique things to their department and that there needs to be a diversity within the faculty that you are hiring so that everyone's contributing something unique to the department and it creates a breadth within a department. So it's very possible, right, that you are, even if you have the same type of appointment, you are unique in your own way. So like you have to create that space as well to account for that, to explain it. And that's part of what we do. As Brad said, right, like you squirrel away all your activity, but you also have to think about what your story is, what your narrative is, and to teach your colleagues what it is that you contribute to your department. And that's part of that narrative, that storytelling that I like to think of it, of course, as a kind of storytelling that you do each year to share the highs and to explain to them what it is that you do and contribute.
I don't know how many people know the process, what happens after you submit your final package or portfolio. When you do that, so in the libraries, we're a committee of the whole in a department, so that everyone who's on the committee, everyone who has tenure is on the tenure committee. But I'm assuming it's the same. Your tenure committee does its vote, it goes to your department head, it goes to a dean, but then it goes to dean's council. So people who don't know what you do or who you are or your value will read it. So it can be helpful to put together your documents and consider the dean of a totally different college who doesn't know anything about you. And if you can write it so that they understand, your colleagues should get an idea of the value that you bring in. And I think that's super important when you consider something that's really common in your field and you assume everybody knows it. It's possible that your person in the office next to you doesn't know. So think about like, what does the dean of engineering or the dean of the libraries know about this? Make sure that that person understands.
Are there other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is kind of an awkward question, and I want to start by saying this is purely hypothetical, but how is productivity evaluated in the tenure track process in the event of like a parental leave, for example?
You want to handle the policy?
Yes. So we have policies of parental leave and also how other kinds of leaves are handled. If you look at University Handbook, Section D, I believe, is where, I don't know, this is really sick that I can say where it is. But but I believe that it is in Section D that talks about those leaves. And also there's language even within our parental leave descriptions, right? But typically when you are on leave, and there's, this is unique. It's not, I don't want to answer just for the parental leave, but for most leaves, there will be language that says either that year or that amount of time that you are on leave will not be counted as part of your tenure and promotion clock. Or there's other kinds of leaves where it will say, like, for instance, if you take research leave, and you're on a Fulbright or something like that, that might have in the contract itself, it might say activity produced during your research leave may count towards promotion and tenure, right? So there are distinctions of the different kinds of leaves, but when you look at those descriptions of the leave in policy, you will be able to see that you either are stopping the clock for that particular amount of time and then given additional time on the probationary period. Or it can have that distinction that no, this is the kind of leave that you're taking, and the productivity within that leave in the sabbatical or a research leave can be counted towards your promotion or your tenure and promotion process and your timelines. It's a really excellent question. And I want to remind everyone that we have parental leave. So it's if you are primary caregiver, or we have also for the non-primary caregiving, right? So if your partner, if you or your partner everybody should get the leave. That's what I'm trying to say. Whoever is caregiving qualifies for leave. And I think people forget that, right? And there's different ways so I think it's just really crucial. And that's not something that was always the case at K-State. And so I just like to remind people that it's not something that should penalize your work or your tenure promotion journey, and that we have those resources for you.
I've taken parental leave, I've taken medical leave. I think sometimes people feel guilty, and I want you to feel guilty and do it anyway, if that's the case. And I'm a 12-month contract, some of you are 9-month contracts. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. If you are taking care of an elder and you have FMLA, you're adopting, you or your partner is giving birth, plan to take the leave, however works best for you, and talk to whoever is appropriate, if that's your department head or HR. Because I think that if you miss out, you will regret not taking it later. And it's a right given to you. So please don't feel the pressure to skip it for promotional reasons.
I'm going to add to that. I'm just going to pep talk this a little bit more. So one of the strategic plans, we have our Next Gen K-State plan. It's a strategic plan. And one of it is about our workforce, of which you are part of the workforce, and creating cultures of wellness, cultures of care, and making K-State a place that we want to work at, and making sure that that's the culture we cultivate is crucial. And so, yes, if you might feel personally guilty, but then think about it as you are fostering this mission of, right, creating that kind of K-State. The wonderful thing about starting out as faculty in a new place is that you become the future of that place. And so it is really exciting to have new cohorts of faculty, and I'm talking to you too, Zoomers, to have the new cohorts of faculty that drive the way we do things. So we want to create policies and processes to encourage your wellness and your success. I'm going to, it's professional success in the sense of your promotion and tenure, but we're dedicated to you. And in those other HR schemas and areas, we are dedicated to you. And so I think that that's something that's really important to remember. We all know the horror stories of, because they've been written in literature, shown to you on television, Netflix series, there are lots of different crazinesses that happen in this world in any employment situation. But there are people to talk to, like your ombuds, fabulous ombuds. Best ombuds person. But we have wonderful people to talk to. Your department heads are your advocates. And I also want to say that you have advocates across your experience at K-State. One of the things that I'm just going to give you this random piece of advice that has everything and nothing to do with promotion and tenure, but one of the things people think about is like, I have one mentor in my department. I was assigned a mentor or a mentor committee in my department. But the reality is that there are thousands of people on this campus outside of your department that can also serve as mentors for you. They might have official titles in administration. They might be department heads elsewhere. They might be your colleagues that you meet at the gym, but you cultivate your web of mentors. And we have this wonderful resource called the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, NCFDD. You should write that in your notes, NCFDD, NCFDD, National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity. And we have an institutional membership to that. And you can get your membership for free. And it's a complete support system for productivity and writing and teaching pedagogy kind of questions, how to protect your time, how to have faculty life balance. It's for grad students, postdocs, junior faculty, senior faculty, all over the place. And they have wonderful webinars that are available to you, and it's free. And that one of the pieces of their advice, one of the pieces of advice that they offer is to think about a mentor circle and to really think about it as entered in your department, in your college, at the university, in your discipline, and then completely outside of that whole world and universe, right? And to really think about cultivating a team for yourself. And that also the other thing to remember is that as you are getting mentored, you, by asking those questions and by creating that culture, are mentoring your mentor, and you're sharing information that can transform your work experience. And I loved what Brad said also, like the more people you have in your life that you can articulate your desires, your wants, your dreams, the more people will know and can contribute to those dreams and those ideas. And so do not be afraid to articulate things that don't exist yet. And I'm not going to get all weird and like manifest stuff, but like it's about, right, just like communicating. And I think often as new faculty, we are shy to do that, but I think it's really an important step for your success. I was going to put out there, some people in their senior years are shy to do that. And so it's just a reminder to myself as well.
We are nearing the end of our time. So what if we conclude with each of the panelists giving maybe what are some characteristics or things that you've noticed in people who've been successful in navigating the faculty evaluation process?
I'm going to preach the don't wait to the last minute to do everything or anything, mantra. I know that some of you only put together things at mid-tenure and final tenure. It can be very hard to remember everything and, like spell check it and all that good stuff. If you are writing your paper at the last minute, although some people are quite successful with that, I think it saves some grief if you make notes. So like Brad said, like putting it in a little file or scheduling a time where you draft something using your documents so you don't scramble at the last minute. That's something I see that helps people be successful.
I would agree. Working through the course of the year and planning for it, knowing what the timelines are. And I think being truly open and receptive to feedback, because that feedback is really what helps us get better. And we all learn every day and continue to improve ourselves. And so I think sometimes feedback can be formalized, sometimes it can be less formal, but nonetheless, it's all valuable. And sometimes we use it, sometimes it may not apply. And we may say, no, that's not something that is going to change what I do. But through the course of that year, that evaluation, a few evaluations, whatever it might look like, using that to help continue make improvements. And I think the faculty that do thrive through the process, because it is not intended to be an unpleasant experience at all, but that truly thrive and grow and then help others are those that do plan ahead and really try to listen to what others share with them, students, faculty, staff, whoever it is that we're working with.
That was well said. Number one, don't be afraid to say no, even to your department head. It's so easy to, especially early in your career, think, I got to do everything. And they say, oh, who wants to go talk to new students? Oh, I'll do it. And you may even really enjoy it, but you do need to think back to what's important. Here's my career objective up here, and what adds to that and what subtracts. And it's okay, you were just talking about parental leave, to realize that you need to get out of here to go to your child's concert or sports event or whatever. Okay. So recognize what truly is helping you advance towards achieving that objective, and make sure that it's aligned with the objective of your position. So one of the things that I regret is having a faculty member who was super outstanding in one area, but that was not necessarily what he was hired to do, and wanted to be promoted on the basis of outstanding work over here. Even though he clearly knew he was, that this other area was more important. Maybe I shouldn't say more important, but a critically important part of his job. And, if you work with the department head, you maybe could change that so that we'll go over in this direction instead. But you can't fight City Hall. My job's over here. And if I'm being really successful over here, I can't promote you because you're really good over here, right? So make sure whatever is most important to you aligns with what's important in your role. And don't be afraid to say no to things that don't really help you get along to that way. Now, we all have to be good citizens and work together, don't get me wrong. But you have to know where you're going, and you have to have that conversation with your department head and be honest, because it doesn't do any good to say, yeah, I'm going to do this over here, but you keep doing this. And I want to be evaluated just like I was brought into the system, because unfortunately we have to follow our processes. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. Well, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you very much, participants. I think this has been I've learned new things today. So I've found this useful. I hope you all have as well. Have a great rest of your Thursday and a happy weekend.